And some people do this, and they struggle and they get to the sort of the 5th or the 6th rep because they're not getting oxygen into their brain and into their body. We'll do another video maybe in the future where we can talk about that technique. I'm another bored a-hole here, and today we need to be honest with ourselves and accept that while, especially on this channel, we laugh at gym fails all the time and mistakes that people do make in the fitness palace of love, we too are gym goers and we too are humans, so sometimes we're gonna drop the ball as well. So to prepare ourselves for such awful and embarrassing times, this is 10 embarrassing gym fails that at some point you're gonna do. Number 10 is getting trapped under the bar. Now, 9 times out of 10, this is going to be when you're doing a bench press because you decide, I can now lift this weight. Even though last week I was lifting nowhere near 3 plates, I was only doing 1.5. Now I totally believe I could do 3 plates each side. I've got my music blaring, I've taken my pre-workout, I'm just feeling good right now, the sun is shining on my face, and you go to do it, and essentially what happens is the bar gets to your neck, and you start to strangle yourself because you can't push it up, because the truth of the matter is that you weren't strong enough to begin with. And at this point, you have 2 choices. Either 1, you can roll it down yourself over your groinal region, which will hurt like hell, or 2, you have to start going, help me, help me. And obviously, sometimes it's like, heart me, because you can't talk, because you're crushing your larynx, and somebody, they never rush over. They always take your time, and they will help you re-rack the bar, and then they'll give you some ass comment like, next time you should lift less weight. Like, next time I should punch you right in the head. But they do have a very good point. It's just embarrassing at the time, and it's not what you need to hear. But you are going to do it. You just are. We always have those days where we feel more powerful than we actually are, which is why when it comes to progressive overload, just take it easy. So if you were doing 1 big plate and 1 small plate, or 20 kilograms over here and a 10 kilograms, put a 2.25 on, put a 5 on, put another 10 on. I understand that it's only minuscule weight, but it still counts as progressive overload. The numbers are still going up. Always remember, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. You don't go from 1 plate each side to 3 plates each side unless you are Superman. And if you're Superman, why were you doing 1 plate each side anyway? You're wasting your time and you're absolutely not achieving muscle hypertrophy. But saying that, how does Superman even lift weights? Because surely there is no weight big enough to create muscle stimulus. I actually don't know. Number 9 falls into the same category, but you squat too much. Now this one, in many ways, is even worse. Because when you get the bar here when you're benching, again, we have the roll technique, but when you're squatting, you only get screwed when you've gone all the way down to the floor and it's time to push back up. Now, what the hell could be worse in the gym than being in that squat position and trying to push the bar up and realize, well, I ain't going nowhere. Gravity's kicking my ass. I don't have the strength. What the hell are you going to do? You're going to fall back? If you're lifting a lot of weight, that's kind of terrifying. Or maybe you're going to hold it so long that you kind of harpsichord yourself. It's not a real thing. And then you kind of get crushed and you vanish into the abyss. Now, I don't know of any documented times this has happened in the gym, the Fitness Palace of Love. But can you tell me it couldn't happen? Well, you probably could, but I'm going to say, no, you cannot. And this is why when you are squatting, you want to use the safety bars, right? Think about a rack, a squat rack in the gym. Most have those like arms that go down the side. They are there so that when you do go down, if you have put too much weight on, you can just drop the bar and it doesn't hit the floor and roll behind you. It just falls onto these metal planks. You can laugh, oh, ha, 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 I lifted too much weight, and then go on to do a lift that you're more comfortable with. So many times on a rack or whatever the squat rack you are using, people don't use these bars. Like, I don't want to put that in there. Put it in there. It was invented for a reason. People don't just make things up for fun. It's there to help you. Number 8 is dropping the weight. I don't mean intentionally, like when you're doing a drop set, so you're doing 100 kilograms and you drop it down to 75 so you can blast out a few more reps. I'm talking about when you are holding a weight, and because you are just a normal person, you drop it right on the floor, and usually you drop it on your foot. Now, when you do drop it on your foot, you have to style it out, and you have to go and pretend you didn't do anything. But also, most of the time, you just have to accept you've been an absolute numpty. You've been an absolute clown. I somehow always do it when I'm doing bicep curls. I don't know what's wrong with my grip. There is something wrong with me. You're right. The comments are going, well, there's something wrong with you, Simon. Yes, I agree. But so many times I'm curling away, not like that. That looks like I've gone to some kind of old person's disco. But I drop it. It just falls out of my hand. And I kind of look around like, was that like voodoo? Did Gandalf come and go, I'm going to make it fall? And he throws a magic beam in my face. I don't get it. Maybe I need to go and see a doctor. Maybe there is something wrong with my grip, but there's not. I'm just a clumsy fool, and I'm going to guess at least 50% of you are clumsy fools too. Number 7 is forgetting to use clips. Now, I will say, on occasion, this is quite smart, because if we go back to our heavy bench press or our heavy squat, what's a great way to get all the plates off? Just tip one side left, tip one side right, and they will magically come off. That's the world we are blessed to be within. But sometimes you don't want to do that, and you actually can do the lift, but maybe you're a little bit unsteady, and because you are off balance, you do dump all the weights on the floor, which is exactly what you didn't want to do. So this is kind of one of those situations where you have to weigh up the positives and the negatives. So if you think you're lifting way too much weight, instead of going, well, I'm not going to clip it on, just go down a little bit and test that weight before going up. And two, what I'm essentially saying here is always use a clip. Always use a flip and clip. Once again, they were invented to stop weights coming off the bar, and you cannot fight gravity. That's the only thing I can come up with here. People go, well, gravity's not gonna get the best of me. Yes, it will, unless you are in space. But even then, somehow it will get in the way. That's not true. But I mean, if you took your spacesuit off, whatever happens up there will happen, and you actually will disappear into the abyss. So don't do it. Clip up. Although the annoying thing is, I found this in the modern day gym, there's never enough clips. I don't mean they're being used elsewhere. I mean, they have the bars, and you count the clips, and there'll be like 12 bars and one clip. So you're like, well, I can't even clip one whole bar up. It doesn't make any sense. Use a clip. Number 6 is when you start at the gym and you decide you're going to be as jacked as you want to be within 1 month. And yes, that counts as a gym fail because you've already set yourself up for failure. If you think in 4 weeks you're going to look like Brad Pitt from Fight Club, it's always Brad Pitt from Fight Club or Arnold Schwarzenegger, you're boned. You're screwed because you're never going to get there unless you have the best genetics on the planet. But I don't think anybody has that good genetics they could transform themselves that much within 4 weeks unless they already had a pretty good base, right? So make sure you set realistic goals. Don't become your own failure, right? Do not do it. I would say probably 12 weeks minimum. So what's that? 3 months before you may even start seeing any changes. And look, I'm being massively conservative there. You'll probably see them far sooner. But if you have a long-term goal in mind, if you do hit it before then, you're going to feel good. And if you don't, when you get to that 3-month mark, you're not going to start feeling really sad and really down and like you failed and then stop going to the gym, which is what most new gym people do. They have this vision in their mind of what they're going to be able to achieve. And when they don't, they decide, well, I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe it's just my body. How about instead of coming here and trying to make a difference, I go back home and I eat a bunch of pizza? And I get that. Eating a bunch of pizza is absolutely terrific, but it wouldn't be happening if you had given yourself a realistic target. So always start with a realistic target, and only then will you be rewarded on the other side. It's like a weird 50-50 situation. Number 5 is getting injured. It's just going to happen. You are going to get injured. Unless you are the luckiest person on the planet, which I don't believe you or anybody is, at some point, you're going to have to sacrifice your gains. You're going to have to sacrifice going to the gym, and you're going to have to sacrifice your classes, whatever the hell you're doing, and just rest up. And of course, that's a fail. Nobody goes to the gym going, well, today I'm planning to get injured. It just happens, and it always happens at the worst possible time, usually when you are having a great run with your sessions. But that's why you just have to give yourself a little bit of TLC. Make sure you use the RICE method. I always get this wrong. Rest, ice, compression, elevation. Thank you very much, brain. I appreciate it. Make sure you do that, and make sure that you're only out for a few weeks as opposed to a few months. Because if you try and train through an injury, you'll have an even bigger gym fail, because again, you will be out for longer. And the goal when you are injured is to get back to 100% so you can get back in the gym. If you hurt your left arm, of course, you can work your legs and you can work the right side of your body. But if you just need complete downtime, it makes so much more sense to have 2 weeks off than a couple of months. Number 4 is overeating. So many people do this still. You start going to the gym and now you think, well, now I need to up the calories because I want to put the mass on. So you go from 2,000 calories to 4,571 calories. That is way too much of a jump. How did you know you needed to add an extra 2,500 calories to your diet? You don't know. You don't know how your body's going to proceed. Maybe if you took that 2,000 calories and sort of jigged it up a little bit, so you're getting more protein, you're getting the right carbs, and you're getting the right fats, that's all you would need. Never make these huge jumps when it comes to what you're eating. If you're on 2,000 and you've started going to the gym and you want to put on size, try 2,500. Just add 500 calories. 500 calories could be a lot. Give it a couple of weeks. Look at the mirror, look at the scale, see how you're feeling. Then maybe add another 500 calories and so on and so forth. But do not make the super duper jump into hyperdrive just because you see these bodybuilders and especially YouTube fitnessers going, well, I'm bulking, I'm having 5,800 calories a day. Maybe that's what they need. You don't know what kind of drugs they're taking and you don't know how you're going to respond. Why waste a bunch of money on food when A, you don't need it, and B, it's just going to make you fat? Unless your goal is getting fat, but if it's getting fat, why go to the gym in the first place? Number 3 is the flip side to that. It's undereating. Sometimes people ask me, oh, Miller, how much do you eat? And when I tell them, they're like, like I just slapped their mother or something like that. You need to eat a lot of food, or at least more food than you're probably eating, to put on musculature and put on size. And you go, well, Simon, that contradicts what you just said. No, I'm just saying you have to find a happy medium between the two. But so many people aren't getting any proper size gains. And then you ask what they're eating, they go, wake up and I have some Weetabix and some cereal. Then I have like a ham sandwich, and before I go to bed, I just have a random meal like spaghetti bolognese. Like, that's not enough. You're not getting anywhere near enough protein. You're not getting anywhere near enough the sustenance that you need in order to benefit your training. It's just true. Again, when it comes to nutrition and going to the gym, you absolutely need to find a balance. But if somebody said to me, you got to, have one that's more important than the other, it doesn't really work because you need both. But nutrition does play a bigger role if you are smashing your gym sessions. Like, you can have half-assed gym sessions and still kind of see results. But if your nutrition and food is all over the place, you're probably not going to get anywhere. So be honest with yourself. If you are not putting on the size, you probably do need to eat more. But then we go back to number 4, don't go wild. Number 2 is forgetting to breathe. I don't just mean in like normal life. So here, if all of a sudden I went and hold my breath for a minute and then drop down dead, and you'd be like, man, how did that video even get published? Who edited it? And who hit the go live button? Surely they should have been tending to Simon. And it can be a technique when you're in the gym. Every time I talk about this, people say, well, is it a technique? It is. I am talking about the novice, I've just gone to the gym lifter. When you are doing any kind of lift, we'll do it with the bench press, because everybody, loves the bench press. When you are, you start here, right? So when you are coming down, you want to breathe in, and when you are pushing up, you want to breathe out. It just works for every rep that you do. It kind of puts your body into a lifting mode. So, when you are exploding from the bottom, that exhalation, not the right word, exhalation, you know what I'm trying to say. I've got massive, massive problems. When you're doing that, it just helps you blast forward. And some people do this, and they struggle and they get to the sort of the 5th or the 6th rep because they're not getting oxygen into their brain and into their body. We'll do another video maybe in the future where we can talk about that technique. But if you have just started going to the gym, do not gym fail yourself by turning red and suffocating, right? Death is not on the menu. Number 1, obviously, is ignoring legs. And I know that you're ignoring legs because I used to ignore legs. And that's because nobody, or some people do, likes working legs. It sucks and it hurts. And it's twice as hard as working your upper body because your legs are keeping you upright for the entire day. So they're already quite built. So trying to trigger them into muscle stimulus is really hard. But please, for the love of everything, don't do what I did in my youth when I was a moron and a stupid kid. Train your legs. Do squats. Do Romanian deadlifts, do calf raises, do quads, do hamstrings, do all of that. Not only are you going to have a better physique overall, but it's going to help your core and it's going to help your upper body. Not directly, but it all kind of ties into the same pot. And again, when you do squats, man, how many times have I talked about this? You release a teeny tiny bit of testosterone around your body, and testosterone is great for building muscles. You don't have to go super heavy all the time. You don't even have to do squats if you don't want to. But at least one day a week, you have to factor in legs. I know you're not going to have a t-shirt that feels really tight around your arm when you train legs, but it's good for what ails you, and you can't train your arms all the time anyway, because that would be a fail. If you're overtraining your arms, they're not going to grow either, and you're just going to be a massive peon. So boom, there you go, 10 gym fails you will definitely experience, but now you can be prepared for them, and hopefully you can make the right changes that don't kick your ass too much. Now, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Leave a comment below. Click the bell, ding, ding, so you know when other videos are going live. There is another video right there. Why don't you give it a click? Greg Doucette's Power 13 cookbook, my recipes are in it. Click the link in the description, see it for you, and use the code Simon15 to get 15% off. I'm on Instagram and Twitter, social media at SimonMiller316. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Simon316. Please do check it out. I'll send you rewards if you support me. SimonMiller.bigcartel.com for merch. Otherwise, please have a great day, have a great life in case we don't talk again, and I'll see you on the next one.